Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. Firstly, just let me apologise because I'm looking a little bit unkempt at the moment after this surgery that I'm still recovering from. So yeah, not looking my best in this video, I'm sure, but hopefully it won't take away from the message that I've got. So every time I start a new book, it always fires off my imagination, which is of course the purpose of books really, is to engender and stimulate ideas in the reader, who will then go on to impart his or her ideas in their own lives and maybe add something to the wealth and the fountain of knowledge that exists in the world. That's the theory, I guess, isn't it? So this book I'm reading is about the Stoics. It's about Stoicism. And like I say, I've only just started reading it, but it did fire my imagination. So I think one thing that we really need to be careful of and be mindful of in this age in which we now live is that in many respects we're not more culturally or spiritually or morally advanced than generations previous to us or civilizations previous to us going back thousands of years. And there's certainly an argument to be made that in the last 20 years that we've probably regressed in a number of aspects of our culture. So take philosophy for a start. The book talks about, and it's quite an interesting point, how many people now compared to 2,000-3,000 years ago, when the age of philosophy across the world, particularly Italy, Greece, also China as well. How many people now live their life according to a philosophy? The book argues that people may go to university to do philosophy as a course, but is the primary motivation there to gain an understanding of who they are and what philosophy is best suited to their personality and their character? Or is it more a compulsion to go and get a degree in order to get a job and go down that path of conformity that many people do, which I thought was quite a revealing insight, really, because it really got me thinking about philosophy. And I like to think of myself as someone who's interested in philosophy, albeit I don't have so much knowledge of the various strands of the famous philosophies from years and years, centuries ago, the likes espoused by the Stoics, like the Epicureans, the Cynics, and characters like Aristotle and Plato, Marcus Aurelius. So it's very interesting to think along those philosophical lines and to realise that the template has been set out thousands of years ago. The template for a philosophy that, if we take the time to learn about, we can apply and match to our characters. And I think this is really interesting. So philosophy was a big deal back in the day. When I talk back in the day, centuries, millennia ago, philosophies are which people lived their thoughts and in their actions. They lived in accordance with a particular type of philosophy that they studied and that they learned from the masters. So how many of us today are living our lives through a philosophy? It's not essential that we have to do this at all. It's not. But as the book that I'm reading argues, a life well lived is a life that is lived in accordance with a philosophy that we attempt to imbue all of our thoughts, actions and behaviours in alignment with. Another way of putting that would be, this is today what we would call values. I talk a lot about values and the importance of identifying values. It's hard to identify the values that are important to you, much harder, as I'm finding, to live in congruence with those values. And it's a reminder for me that it's all too easy for us to get caught up in this notion that as you know, from our journey to Neanderthal to where we are now in the craziest year there's ever been, I think we'll all agree, 2020, that there have been advances in who we are as people, in our biochemistry, in our biology, in uh, our brains, our appreciation of ourselves and the world around us. And that's notwithstanding the numerous inventions and advances of the societies that we've built around ourselves as we have evolved through the millennia and the eons of time. However, as I said at the start of the video, we are more backward in many ways now than civilizations years and years ago. I mean, would we be able to take on a project as big as building the pyramids? Would that even be possible now? It fills me with wonder and awe how that was actually done. But talking about understanding ourselves and the crucial importance of first being able to understand ourselves before we can make the biggest impact in the world, biggest positive impact. And the two aspects to this, yes, we're not as morally, spiritually and culturally advanced as we like to think we are. In some ways we're more, in many ways we're not. I think that there's an argument to be made that compared certainly to 20 years ago, that we've taken many backward steps, primarily in the way that we communicate with each other. And the way that we communicate, and it's interesting because we have more communication tools at our disposal than any other human civilization that's ever lived. Yet we seem more and more incapable of being able to communicate in a way that is respectful and that generates really healthy debate. And we also need to remember that, or some of us need to remember that history will look upon our age now and will find the prevailing trends, the zeitgeist, and the societal values at the time to be, or many of them to be confusing, and many of them to be horrific. They will look in horror at how we have our society has evolved and what it's become. Just in the same way that if we look back to centuries ago, you know, maybe the burning of witches or the Spanish Inquisition, or more recent, the horrors of the 20th century in Europe, we look upon those with horror. So let's not compare ourselves to the past and to the future and think that we're in some way better, because I'd argue that we're not. We have lots to learn from the past, and we have lots to be grounded about in what we don't know, which only the future will be able to shine a light on. And I think this is particularly important when I talk about societal values a lot, and there is a movement at the moment. I try and think of a name for it. The opposite to what I would like there to be. So I would like there to be a movement of individualism and conversationalism, a philosophy based around those two concepts, which I think there will. And my argument is that whether in 5 or 25 years, there will be a new age of altruism where people actually want to speak to each other and understand each other. We have the opposite of that at the moment in this world in which we live. And it is built around a moral vanity and a moral superiority born out of a laziness to get to know oneself in many cases, and a cowardice in wanting to understand one's own character and gain power over one's own character and personality before seeking to gain power over others, what they can and can't say, what they can and can't do, what opportunities they can and can't have. And that's what we've got at the moment, which is why we've ended up in a world where freedom of speech is massively under threat, where freedom itself is massively under threat, and where democracy is massively under threat. All as a result of too many individuals not applying a philosophical way of living their lives, and, or to put it in more modern terms, identifying values. And the key thing here is, and I speak from experience, is It's okay to be hypocritical. It's okay to regress. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to sin. It's okay to be imperfect and to aspire but not meet values, or aspire to philosophy and not be completely in alignment with it. That's what being human is all about, because in being able to reflect on those mistakes and on those imperfections in our character, we learn more about ourselves, we become more humble, more rounded, we can grow, and ultimately we become much more useful to society, and to a society that can then thrive under conditions of acceptance, creativity and freedom. So yeah, let's be mindful of our place in history and remember that we don't know everything. We don't know half of what we don't know. We know an infinitesimally small number of things that there are to know in this world, in this crazy world that we live in, and we just need to make sure that we ground ourselves and stay humble. It's what the world needs. Okay, I think that's my video done for today. Hope you enjoyed that insight, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.